This next panel is physicians,
Did I get the audio,
osteopaths, important people. The fact that the Liquor Control Board could pick and choose amongst the applicants and decide who was going to get bestowed with an application, with the real application, just grieves the hell out of me. So you guys can talk about that and all the other problems we're having getting legal here. Why aren't we legal? Don.
Hey, welcome to Hempfest, everybody. We got our ounce. Now let's get the rest of it. I don't know how we're really going to start this off, but I can tell you that beyond 502, this year we're running an issue of 648. We feel that 502 missed a couple of important things that need to be addressed immediately. And then after we get done with that, we'll go on to the next steps and the next steps. We really want to make cannabis regular in everybody's life. If it is safer than alcohol, we know it is. We have to remove all the reefer madness stigma that's gone on. So what we do with 648 is we allow any adult 21 or older to grow at their home 15 plants and possess up to 24 ounces, which is our current medical limit. Now, over the past several years, we've run a couple initiatives. I started out with Sensible Washington in 1068, 1149. We had a couple of practice initiatives on our own. But you have to shorten this thing. 502 was 68 pages long. And we've got this down to 2 pages in really big print. So it's home growing without tax, fee, license, permit, or registration. Now, in a nod to 502 and home gardeners everywhere, we also feel that if it's legal to possess and grow your own, you should be able to share your bounty out of the garden as you do with every other thing. So when you pass your neighbor a zucchini, we feel that you should also be able to, not for profit, transfer up to 1 ounce to any other adult without tax, fee, license, or registration. So the next thing is we have to stop arresting our young people under 21. It's legal now. If you're 21, you can have up to the ounce. If you're 20 and 11 months, you can still spend a night in jail for what will be legal in a month. So we feel that adults, now that we're in the new age, if you're 18 to 21 and have a violation, it's like a parking ticket or anything else. You will go to court, you will respond, and you'll settle it. If you're under 18, this is an issue that needs to be dealt with in the family. Your family will take you to court. But we need to stop putting our young people into jail unnecessarily. They take them away from work. We put them in with with criminals that really are detrimental to their development as young adults. And that's completely unnecessary. Patients have been very concerned about the 5 nanogram DUI per se here in Washington State. I understand why 502 put that in there, but I'm just not sure of the science. We know that 0.08 BAC is a consistent indicator across the population of impairment with alcohol. What we don't know, first of all, we don't know if a measurement of nanograms in the blood system is even a measurement of impairment. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's some other determinant. But we need to do that research before we go putting in these arbitrary DUI amounts. So those are some key things of 648, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it more later, but I want to give my other panel members here some time. We're at 474, right up there by Stone Village. And Jeff,
all right,
Reverend Cannabis, what have you got to tell us?
I'm going to step in here really quick, since Don did invite me to moderate if we needed to moderate the moderator. And so what I'm going to say is, let's all maybe make some introductory just comments on some of the things that you're observing. Try to keep it to, let's say, 2 minutes, and then talk about what each other is saying. How does that sound?
Awesome.
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, so Jeff, there you go.
Yeah, so I'm Reverend Cannabis, and
I believe that there's lots of problems with the initial bill that was written for 502. I didn't support a lot of what there was, the DUI, the lack of the ability for you to pass a joint to your friend. If your friend's over 21 and you spark a joint, legally you can't pass it to them. It's distribution of cannabis, and so that's felony distribution. And so there's a lot of problems with the law. I do, on the other hand, think that the law is changing things greatly, and I think that 502 as an idea for the world has really awakened the spirit of everybody to stand up for their rights to have cannabis and use cannabis in the ways that they want. So, just like Don, I want home grow, I want all kinds of things that were not in the bill. But let's get to the bill. I think that the Liquor Control Board, they're doing a good job. They're slow. They're not getting through these thousands of applicants, but they've never done this before. So they do have some sort of excuse as to why they're not getting to everybody on time. It's unfortunate that Don was saying it's months and months and months past the deadline for the application, and people still haven't heard from the Liquor Control Board. But on the other hand, there are a lot of producers out there that are producing high quality cannabis. There's a lot of low quality, just like everything in the market, but there's people producing cannabis. It's getting sold. The progression is happening, albeit slow. And so, I want to see this succeed, even though I don't believe in every factor that was involved in the bill, all of the oppression that was given to us with this freedom. But I say that it's moving along.
Great, thank you very much, Reverend Cannabis. All right, Kevin Oliver, Washington Normal.
Thanks. My name is Kevin Oliver. I'm the executive director of a Washington state affiliate for NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, and I'm also on the national board. And as of last week, I'm a Tier 3 licensed producer and processor. So 502 is working so far as planned, albeit it's a slow start. January 2015 is when the fiscal projections actually begin, and so we'll be able to revisit exactly how well it's working at the end of 2015. Everything that's happening now and is happening now is a dress rehearsal, moving up to that. Product is moving off the shelf. Product is faster than it can be grown. We'll see how it works out in the end, but as Jeff was saying and Don was saying, this isn't over. This is just the first birth of some real life after this, death train of prohibition that we've been on. I'll go ahead and pass it over and get started.
Great, thank you. I'm Shawn Dene. I'm the CEO of Washington Bud Company here in the Puget Sound area. We've been providing medical marijuana for a couple of years now, and we are a 502 producer processor applicant. So we're as far as we can get in the Liquor Control Board, and now unfortunately we're bogged down in the Snohomish County Planning and Development Department. But we're moving through that as fast as we can. And as far as 502 is concerned, a lot of people in this room know that I was on the vote no on 502 because I read all 68 of those pages and I didn't agree with a lot of what it said. But being that as it may, I'm also a realistic businesswoman and wanted to get my name in the hat for the licensing last November and December. And what I see as some major things that we need to change, because we knew that 502 was flawed. We just needed to get it there and now work on changing it and starting this next legislative session. And I really believe that one of the big things that we need to change is the non-disclosure. Our addresses and our routes of delivery need to be secret. They cannot be public record, because I care about my employees and I care about myself and I care about my family, and I don't want to put it on the World Wide Web where we are. The other thing that needs to change, I believe, is the wholesale tax. None of the spreadsheets that I've done for business-wise show that you can really make a thriving business with that wholesale tax. There's just way too much involved. Sure, it's a weed, but if you want to grow good weed, it takes a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure and a lot of time and labor to do it, and we need to get rid of that wholesale tax. And then we also need to change it from an excise tax to a sales tax, because as the way it's set up now is we will have to pay federal income tax on that 25% excise tax. So if you're at a 35% income bracket, you're paying 25 plus another 35. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's taking away the even possibility that people can thrive and have a good business. And then the other thing is that one of the only laws that passed last legislative session was the agriculture bill. They took away the ag deductions that any farmer can have. And they took that away from us, from the marijuana growers, and we need to get those tax exemptions back on the books. If we're going to make this experiment happen, we've got to make it happen to where business people can go out there and have a thriving business. We don't need to get rich. We just need to be able to make a living. And with all of these taxes and regulations, that's going to be awfully hard to do. But we're pushing forward. We've got a lot of hope and enthusiasm for it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. I'm Dominic Corbett. I'm Executive Director of the Center for the Study of Cannabis and Social Policy. And so I represent a sort of nonprofit social scientist think tank perspective. And that perspective, first and foremost, wants to acknowledge at this table, what you have is an ethnographic sample. You have 4 producers in different stages dealing with different things and with different concerns right now. Ethnographic subjects are samples. They're like 5 people. So there's definitely a large population of people, and many of them share the difficulties that Dawn has been having. Many of them share the successes that others have been having. But what I want to talk about, and I want to acknowledge that suffering because it matters. It sucks. It really sucks for people going through it. But in terms of market creation, you kind of got to focus, or I have to focus on the folks who are running the gauntlet for whatever reason that might be. Could be luck, could be capitalization, could be any number of things. But these are the people who are currently creating the market, creating the production lines, creating the commodity chains that right now are just in infant stages, basically. So I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. Where are we at right now? What is the state of 502 in terms of production? So right now, we have maybe about, 45 sort of active producers that have been approved and have been actually, active long enough to actually have product. So a very limited amount of folks have actually not only been approved, but also been active long enough to have products. That's one of the things producing this shortage. But if you notice on the retail side of things, even with these especially perhaps with these very limited retail sites, what's happening is this product, which is being priced at $20, $25 a gram, is flying off the shelves. Every one of these stores is running out. I think there was one retail store so far that has managed to stay open consistently. And every one of those retailers I call and talk to, they're like, we're out right now, but we'll reopen, X day, right? So what that means in sheer market signal terms is that the prices are too low. And this is I think a controversial thing to say is that right now, in terms of just sheer economics, the retail prices are too low. Now, why are they too low? If they're not obeying simple economic logic, right? Well, there are a number of reasons for these, for why they're too low. They're too low because retailers have an idea about what fair prices are. They want to build their clientele, and they don't want to start out at levels of price that they're not comfortable with. Producers, on the other hand, who can sell on the market easily at $5,000 a pound right now, and higher, certainly, don't sell at $5,000 a pound. A lot of them don't. A lot of them actually are choosing to establish supply contracts that will guarantee that the retailer will be taking their product into the future in exchange for offering lower prices today. And by lower prices, $3,000, $3,300 a pound, even less actually, I've been hearing. That's way below market prices. So in terms of just sheer supply and demand right now. So the question is, those are kind of rare, but on the producer side, the producers have a different idea of what constitutes a fair price. They have a different idea because exactly of what you've been hearing about, the difficulties getting off the ground. That the producers have been in this process so long and had so many different kinds of delays and so many unexpected things to deal with, and so many things besides getting approved to deal with, that they desperately need capital infusion at this point. Many of them, especially the smaller producers and the mom and pops. Right? The retailers, they got up and running pretty fast. They won a lottery ticket, they opened their doors. So the producers are like, you know what, like you really should be taking this at, you know, higher prices. And I've talked to a number of retailers who are militant in not taking, well, I would say to be fair prices right now. That's probably because I tend to sympathize with producers a little bit more. So these dynamics are affecting, you know, the so-called shortage, right? It's the media buzzword. Oh, there's a shortage. What does that mean? Not enough product. It means so many more things besides that. Like there's so many social contexts you got to pay attention to. So I think I want to halt there because I've gone on long enough and open it back up to everybody else.
Well, the only thing I have to say to that is an eighth has been $40 for how long? 20 years, 25 years? We're due for a price increase, people.
I'd like to address the zoning that you both just mentioned. One of the things we've done as the normal chapter is help organize processors and producers and retailers in some counties that have reached out to us, especially that didn't even know who their neighbors were. We've done that through the public disclosure list available from the LCB, and really just put together some email contact lists. We've had successes, limited successes though, in zoning issues that have arisen in Spokane. Mason County just lifted their ban. A few others, I've got a list, I just don't have it in front of me. And so that's one of the impediments to this wheel that's turning in slow motion, and one of the reasons it is, I mean, turning in slow motion, like the name is saying, so you can have all your ducks in a row, everything ready to go, all the money you need to get started, and then the city can say, whoa, this is for real, wait a minute, you got to be 300 feet from your property line, and all of a sudden you've got a 50-foot rectangle in the middle of 10 acres that you're allowed to put your 3 Tier 3s on. And this is the middle of an agricultural zone, and then you have to go in and try to educate the county commissioners or the city council, and depending on whether or not 502 passed in their municipality, they may have their listening ears on. After the Attorney General's opinion, that emboldened any kind of social mores or political leanings they had towards favoring prohibition and banning production or retail in their municipalities. However, as that plays out, his opinion was just that, and the state does have authority. The cities and counties cannot ban the 502 from actually happening. They can enact zoning. It's a more difficult issue. Then it takes, again, what we try to do as normal grassroots is bring together the producers and processors, those people who are actually interested and have a horse in the race, and offer them talking points and other empowering tools to hopefully convince their commissioners or city council members that they really should go along with this. If it's not just a straight ban. It's tricky because not everybody voted for 502, especially east of the Cascades. But eventually I think that when society realizes the sky isn't falling and the experiment does work as it takes hold, it's a little bit like a plant growing. You take your clone, you hope the roots take, you put it in the dirt, you hope it grows, and all of a sudden it's a huge bush you have to trim. And I think 502 might take off in a similar fashion. And right now we just cloned it.
Waiting for the roots.
Actually, I want to disagree. I don't think that the problem is the prices are too low. I think the problem is there's not enough damn cannabis in the stores.
Well, that's true.
And
there will be.
I got to tell you, as I've watched reform over the years, I've been a cannabis consumer for many, many years, and the problem is the prohibition of cannabis has been a taking directly from the wallets of the people. And it's been a taking through contraband pricing in the past. We've had to pay all the way up to 40 an eighth for a product that's illegal because you've got to smuggle it in, you face arrest and everything else. I can't imagine why, if we're going into a normalization of this into the business stream, why this as a legal product now, free of all the prohibition costs, the price would have to go up. So I worry that the average consumer, the person that just wants to have a little bit of weed instead of alcohol or any other substance, might be priced out of the market. I realize that right now, supply and demand, it's not unreasonable, but we shouldn't need to be looking at the prohibition pricing or beyond that in order for this to work. I mean, if you can get this just about anywhere, we don't need to guard our supply routes and everything else. I mean, you talk to beer distributors and liquor distributors, it's regular business. And that's what we need cannabis to become, is regular business. And moving ahead,
well, there's a difference between it being what we want it to be and what it is right now. Yeah. And so, like, I personally, I'm focused on what it is right now, because if we don't understand what it is right now, there's no way we're going to make it happen the way we want it to happen.
Well, I don't want to trade what has been a criminal prohibition for the general population of the world for an economic one. I really would like people to be heavily taxed like this, and to maybe have a few extra dollars of their own to put into the regular economy in the way that
Me too. I want that too.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying is, if I'm Joe Blow now paying 40 an eighth, and the price isn't high enough at the store because I don't want to go to the black market, I'm finally comfortable enough.
Well, so
the black market has way better weed and way better choices right now.
Okay, the Liquor Control Board has said themselves that they are only looking at licensing enough to take care of 25% of the market in Washington State.
Yeah,
11%.
It's 11%.
Well, so whatever it is, there's you could extrapolate numbers different ways.
And Jeff, the other thing I said was 25% of the market is under 21.
So what they're doing is they're easing into this, right? Of course there's not enough production. There's only 45 entities that have actually produced cannabis. There are a lot that are waiting, right? And so in the future, I see the price is going to continue to rise for a while, and people like yourselves are going to go to the black market, and that's the way that the Liquor Control Board intended it. If they intended it to be available enough for everybody, they would have had a lot more square footage allotted. Right, they want to take this in an experimental phase, right, and so that's really what it is. It's unfortunate for people. Medical marijuana patients should not be forced into going to 502 stores to get that medicine because it's way too expensive. But the guy that just wants to smoke a joint once in a while, sure, let him go in there and spend $20 on a joint today because he wants to get it today. And tomorrow, after all of these producers are licensed, the price is going to come down. Producers are going to have a surplus, and they're going to go down below $40 is what I believe. Now we're going to have to fix taxes, right? But that's all of these growing pains. We're moving towards that. So.
I think they'll be about $1,400 a pound once the producers are online, not $4,000. About $87 an ounce is what a producer will probably get.
How is that justified? I mean, that's an extremely high cost for a product that does not cost that much to produce and get to market.
Well, I wish I could tell my black
security
market drug
cameras
dealer
yet.
that, because he's charging me a lot more than $87 an ounce.
Right.
He's not paying taxes.
Jesus, Kevin.
Well, and Don brings up a point of, okay, so forever, anybody that wants to get marijuana, we're getting it on the black market. And now we've got this legal system. Well, on the black market, okay, so you've got some risk, obviously, that is
federal prison, just ask Mark.
Equal risk. However, as far as the pricing is concerned, this $40 an eighth that's been that way forever, that's on a non-tax product. It's on a you don't have the overhead of a store. You don't have the overhead of advertising. You don't have the overhead of taxes. You don't have any of that sort of overhead. Most of it's grown, homegrown, distributed among people. And I mean, look around the cannabis community. Do you see any rich people around just dripping in gold? No, because how it's been forever, You have a section, whether it's a pound, an ounce, or whatever. You divide it up into 4, you sell 3, and you smoke yours for free. I mean, that's just how it's been. So, it's time to change. We're in a legal market now. It's time to put in all of those expenses and those overhead costs and build in some profitability and price it accordingly.
Well, here's where I see it's corrupt. Hold on. Let me get the mic. Hello. Yeah. Here's where I see it's corrupt. The people who are going to make money on this are the first producers out of the chute. The people who can get the $4,800 a pound. Okay? They said, get your application in by November 18th, and we're going to treat them all the same. Put in your first application, and then we're going to issue a second application. And then about the 9th of December, they say, we're not going to send you an application until you get an interview, and you're not going to get an interview until you get a call. So everybody who put in their money, just wait for the call. Okay? And who they called and who they chose to give these licenses to are their friends, the people who know, the people with attorneys, the payoffs. It's corrupt. It looks corrupt. It's corrupt. If it looks corrupt, it's corrupt. An agency can't pick and choose amongst the people they know and give them the license. They said that first license they gave to Couchlock. We chose him for our first one because we met him at an event, and they can't play that game. They can't choose they have to treat us all equally. And if there's not enough production now causing the thing to fail, it's their fault for trying to put the handcuffs on this thing and not letting the producers get started fairly and equally and evenly.
Well, and Don, I'll agree with that because the Liquor Control Board called me right away, went through the whole DocuSign, everything signed, sealed, and delivered. I mean, basically this paperwork is like getting a mortgage other than the fingerprints and stuff. But they could have very easily called other people that already had their buildings built, already had their warehouses, already had their greenhouses up, as to where we don't. We still have to go through planning and development with Snohomish County, but I'm as far as I can go with the Liquor Control Board, and I would have gladly given up my seat in that process to somebody that was further ahead.
Yeah, what do you say to the guy who spent all the money, did everything right, rented a place for years, got everything going, has his plants nice and ready like the first applicants did, ready to put into their place, and they never hear.
I got an answer for you. This is what you say. You say, your pain matters. Your pain matters because that's about all you can say.
Oh, that's great. I'll tell the investors, your pain matters.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone knew me when I applied for the license, and my wife applied for the license as well. We didn't call anybody and say, hey, can we get a favor? Hey, I'm with Normal. None of that happened with me personally. They did ask me first up, do you own or lease? We own 10 acres of farmland, indoor or outdoor? Outdoor. That may have been a trick. We did own our land, it is an outdoor grow. When they came for our inspection, we had everything ready to go, but they certainly didn't know who I was, and they certainly didn't know my wife.
Well, the person I'm upset about owned their 20 acres, didn't lease, all those things. That's not it, Kevin. You got called because they know you and they know that Normal would be on the case. I'm not saying that. Whatever. They picked and chose.
They do background. They do background checks. They know who you are, Kevin.
They chose who they wanted, and that's illegal and corrupt. If you didn't get called, go pay a lawyer, and the lawyer will get them to call. So that's corrupt.
What is the name of that lawyer, by the way? I think I know that lawyer.
The applicants that I know that got licensed first called the Liquor Control Board every day. They said, where are we at? Where are we at in the process? And they continued to push and push and push. The people that are waiting for a call from the Liquor Control Board are the ones that are not pushing as hard. And so that's what I've seen personally. I don't know your specific situation. I don't know everybody's specific situation, but the people that I know that got their license right away, I said, hey, how'd you get it so fast? They called, and they called, and they called.
But see, I think that's what Don's point is, that if it's a legitimate process, that you should be just each application
We're not talking
application
about
should
whether
be
it's
taken
legitimate or
and
not. We're
processed.
talking about how it's working.
And it's
Well, no. If it isn't legitimate, if it doesn't appear to be legitimate, if it doesn't appear to be fair, it's corrupt. And no matter how well it's working,
Welcome
it's
to the
not-
rest of the economy.
Would you be
Con.
saying that if you got a
That's
license?
exactly how it works with everything else.
We've got a question over here.
Yeah.
So my understanding is when Uruguay decided to legalize, that they are starting with $1 a gram. Has anybody followed the progress of that program, and does anyone want to comment on the specific reason why they're starting at $1 a gram?
That's a total government-controlled program. The government owns the fields, the farmers, the distribution system, the stores, the product. They're pricing that at that price to take the black market out right now. And they've got serious problems with black market. We're not talking about medical marijuana, gray market down there. We're talking bad guys, big money. And when you take 80% of their revenues away, like Uruguay is going to do, or they're doing, it's going to hurt them really bad. I hope that $1 a gram pot is available everywhere legally, recreationally. I say that as a farmer who won't make any money doing that. I do want to make one point, and I don't know if anybody's actually interested in this. Don, you may be. 502 has a group that I didn't start, but I've noticed it's the most transparent message board, 502 Cannabis Google groups, of any conversations I've seen since this began in 2011, and it's people who are going through the process, having some of the same problems as you, success stories, whether they're retailers, producers, or processors. There's no monetary motivation. You don't have to join a group. Just if you're a Google person, you can get on 502 Cannabis Google groups, and it is a fantastically transparent insight into what's happening right now with 502.
I endorse everything he just said.
Seriously. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good group.
Hello. My experience with the LCB has been slightly different because I have no public picture in Washington as a whole. I don't think anybody on the LCB knows who I am. And they called me back quite early and have been more than accommodating my lack of inability to meet their requirements. They have given me an indefinite stay, and they have encouraged me to meet the requirements incrementally. So rather than corruption and opposition, I have only seen support and help. Thanks.
Well,
Me too, Sam. That's what I found.
That's how you get a license, Sam. Just
I'm going to come back and
Well,
say
no.
maybe it's not that they knew me, maybe they knew you, Don.
no, my name's not on this. I'm just.
Hi, Russ Belville from 420 Radio. Oregon's Measure 91 is on the ballot. It's proposing a flat tax legalization of $35 per ounce, flat tax one time.
Yay.
No tied house provisions where you can grow and be a retailer. And the Legislative Review Office has estimated that the cost of an ounce will be $140.
Huh?
How do you think that will impact Washington and I-502 licensees, particularly in Clark County, right across the river from Portland?
I want to open a dispensary in Oregon when that happens.
The Portland airport will be a lot busier than SeaTac.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually a question. I think that was pretty obvious. Yeah.
Is that going to cause your legislature to have to revisit these taxes?
Well, the legislature is going to have to revisit these taxes. I mean, that's just
It's one of the many things they're
logical.
going to have to revisit.
And actually, that's an important thing to bring up right now as we finish up this year and go into the next legislative session. It doesn't matter whether you're a private citizen or in business. It's really important, especially as we're coming out of prohibition into regular commerce. Register to vote, know who represents you in Olympia, and speak to them, and speak your mind to them. I mean, if they are your representatives and are going to represent the will of the people moving forward and not just the voices that are heard, it's really important that they know what regular folks like all of us think.
Okay, we got time for one more question. Okay.
He's got one right there.
Okay. How about come up front and meet me here?
I was listening and how
Speak right into the microphone, sir.
how
Thank
the
you.
freedom of cannabis. So the before I-502, it was 295.64 RCW. The pre-502, when you just do medical card, and when I feel that if it was patient to patient, giving another person cannabis that's a patient, if they came in then and shut down a collective, the criminal. Now 502 passes, and after 502, whatever gets laid is what the structure is. None of those people that spent $35,000 in lawyers spent time away from work and their families and going through fighting the cases and all this that was bled to the system. What happens to those people? What matters then? Is they need that given back, or when the
Well, there's no doubt that medical marijuana needs addressed in this state. Medical marijuana patients need the protection of the state, which they don't have right now. Safe access points need the protection of the state, which they don't have right now. And producers and processors of medical marijuana need protection from the state, which we don't have right now. And so, there's a lot of work to do. Sure, we're legal, 21 and over. They can walk down the street with an ounce of weed in their pocket with the sole intention of getting as high as they possibly can and have no consequences. But there are a lot of consequences still for people that are working in the medical marijuana world, and that's a big issue that needs to be addressed this legislative session and moving forward.
And thanks for bringing that up, because we really need to come together. All of our authorizing physicians, they know what's going on. They know what the problems are on their ends. Patients, they know what their concerns are. Their designated providers that care about them, family members and such. Our access points. I work at Northwest Cannabis Market. I see 400 to 600 people every single day. And I also see about a dozen or two groups of medical or recreational consumers that want to come in and say, well, it's legal now. But that's something we really need to be wary of, especially since there is such a lack of product in the market right now. We don't want all the medical cannabis consumers to be done out of their product because of higher demand and the mightier dollar. We need to preserve our access.
There's a woman here that has had her hand up. Can we take her question?
Safe access, lady. They've always had safe access for a long time for the medical marijuana for I-502. And one of the things I'm disappointed to hear was that the I-502 organizers did not invite the medical marijuana community to join that table to work on the legislation and the networking, the community organizing it for 30 years, sick people. That's why you see all the dispensaries around. That's why you have all that. When they passed I-502 and Progressive Insurance paid $1 million, by the way, Alice Holcomb never mentions that. $1 million to pay all those people. Rick Smith said to me, I won't hold it against you, Mary, if you need a job and you want to collect signatures, because I don't believe I-502. He died last December, Rick Smith, and he was one of the people that Munchie saved lives, and he was quite distressed over the nanogram. And then one of the things he said to me, he said, Mary, that Alice Holcomb and those organizers did not bring it to the table and have the medical marijuana include all their legislation and all that work, because that was already capstone. That was already precedence. And when I-502 passed, they took that away. So there's some kind of precedence there. I don't know what it is.
And it's still happening.
I just want to thank
It wasn't about medical, it was about business.
Yeah, and it was dropped on us. There was no input from our side, from the people who knew about this industry. None of us had input into it. Only U.S. attorneys and cops and others wrote this thing. It's our job to fix it. We can do this if we can get united about what we want as a community. If we can get all these 502 entrepreneurs and all the 501, what we're calling the pre-502 entrepreneurs, the 501 medical people, if we can get them all on the same page, we can have anything we want from the legislature. But trying to get us united, Maybe that's the job of Hempfest, because no one else is doing it. We got to get united here, or we're going to get divided and fail.
As far as patience goes, we need to define what our issues are clearly to the legislature. We can no longer be the fractured thousands toothpicks we've been. We need to be one big bat glued together.
I just want to add that the in-state donors for 502, the large in-state donors that gave close to $1 million each, Rick Steves and Cody Swift of the River Six Foundation, and this is a $5 million campaign, so they basically paid for half of it in-state. Neither one of them are licensing up. Neither one of them are making a dime off of this. And also, 5,000 people have not been arrested this year because of 502 on possession charges, but about 170 were because they were over their 28-gram limit. So again, this thing can still be tweaked, but 5,000 less people were arrested because 502 worked.
So those over 40 grams that was misdemeanor charges for what would...
I said over 28 grams, they were misdemeanor charges, yeah.
So yeah, it's legal up to 28, but then the next step is not... when I'm on the highway and I'm doing in a 60 zone and I do 70, I get a ticket. They don't take me to jail and impound my car, and I don't lose my job. So that's one of the things 648 does, is it addresses that penalty. Up to 40 grams would be a ticket.
And what you all should know is that there is a task force. The legislators are getting together right now. They started last month with an investigative task force because they know they need to change 502. They know they need to tweak it, and it won't be just this year. It'll be ongoing, but they're trying to get ahead of the curve, and they are reaching out to the community to get knowledge. They're reaching out more to the 502 community and much less to the medical community. That's granted, but at least they're trying to get ahead of the ball and not just waiting for the legislative session in January. So again, talk to your representatives, send them an email, give them a call. Let them know how you feel about these issues, and because they do represent us, and we do need to hold their feet to the fire.
Go ahead.
All right. I just want to point out that you should listen to her. She was the chair of the Health Before Happy Hour campaign that really played a critical role in helping get the legislature at least aware that they had a lot of work to do on the medical side. This person was a key person to make it happen. I just want to point that out.
So let me do this. We entitled this panel Report Card. Report Card 502. How is legalization going? So on A to F scale, how is the Liquor Control Board doing in implementing I-502?
Well, I can't really judge how the Liquor Control Board is doing, but I would say that as far as where 502 is right now, it's a D, but can improve.
Yeah, I think the Liquor Control Board's doing all right. Maybe B minus, something like that. They're moving along. They need a few more people down there, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think they studied for this exam, because how could they?
Yeah.
I'd give them maybe a B minus, a C plus.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us have been studying this issue for years.
Well, I think the whole thing was put into the wrong agency. I think it should be Department of Ag and Department of Health, and have the Department of Revenue collecting the taxes, not the Liquor Control Board.
Absolutely.
But based on the insurmountable task of making this all work, I think the Liquor Control Board has done a pretty good job. So, based on all the issues and all the stuff, I'd give them about a C plus to a B minus.
All right, and so the person who actually was a professor gets to give a grade. That's great. Yeah. Well, I have to say that I disagree with absolutely everyone, and I think that one, you have to give them the only grade that's possible, which is an incomplete. They're not done. I've had some students who looked like they weren't going to make it by the deadline, and they turned in the most beautiful, non-plagiarized, research papers that I've ever seen. And so there are a lot of different kinds of ways to grade the LCB on what exactly their internal criteria. The fact that they're doing this at all, part of the Health Department of Ag didn't want it. They still don't want it. It's part of the work we have to do to get them to take it. But in the meantime, there's these people. That's what we have. So we need to either work with that and try to or in spite of it basically, or against it. But I would say in spite of it is probably the best way to go.
All right, so coming up next, everybody, is the medical panel. You get to ask the doctors all kinds of hard questions. But let's sum this up by giving everybody 30 seconds to say how to reach them and say what they think the most important point is. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you. I'm Don Skacke. Our organization is Real Legalization. And we're at reallegalization.org. We're on Facebook. And today we are at booth 474. Our initiative is Initiative 648. I got copies that you can take home to your friends and relatives that are not here today. Sign it and mail it in. One signature becomes 5. And I'd love to talk to you about it. We have the knowledge booth today as well.
All right, I'm Reverend Cannabis, cannabis.reverend@gmail.
My name's Kevin. Kevin at wanormal.org. You can just go to normal.org and click on Washington. As an activist, I'm not here to promote my production or processing.
Well, I am. We're Washington Bud Company, and we, along with Leafly and Have a Heart, are over in the Liberty Garden Cannabis Lounge, just right across here, which is a historic lounge. Have a Heart has some dab rigs there. We're introducing a new virgin oil. Eden Labs is there. Phyto Labs is there. They've got some really fascinating analysis of cannabis and terpene analysis. So go over there and learn something about terpenes and cannabinoids. It's really great work. And so we invite you all over to the lounge. I'm Sean Denise.
So much better with the VA. This will show. So what you're doing is you're talking about what you get from a dab versus a joint?
Well, we test all kinds of products, whether it's an edible, concentrate, a flower, etc. So we're just looking for potency profiles, and that's going to give us the cannabinoid levels. And we're also looking for terpenoids, terpenes, that give it the different smells and also different medicinal purposes, potentially.
Okay.
We're also looking for mold, bugs, and residual solvents, too, when people create the extract, to see if there's any expandable that.
Yeah, I thought if people found one and they went, oh, I want an anti-inflammatory one, they can find it, you know?
So the question I have, I'm kind of a hemp-focused guy, so if I wanted to bring like my Nebraska guy, so if I wanted to bring like my, see how little THC it has, the CB,
yeah,
and the CB.
Yeah, but it apparently has no cannabinoid profile.
Well, Nebraska has some strains that are high CBD but low CB.
Yeah.
So you can still smoke them and not get a headache.
Apparently came from a.
You need. Eventually, you're going to have labeling for your product, and you need that information. Where are you going to get it from?
Right.
From you guys.
So that you know how much to take, and because there's a certain window, where you can take an edible that is great, and then if you have too much or milligrams of THC, you can have a really bad experience.
Yeah. Well, see, for me.
My takeaway point is, there's a lot of shitty things happening right now to a lot of people. The best way to deal with that is to get together with people who are having like experiences and organize collectively, because you're much more powerful together than you are alone. And your pain matters to each other, and it's maybe in your bandwidth to actually help each other out. So I think that's very important. I want to actually make a little nod to Donnie Wirtschafter right there. He's on the board of my organization, the Center for the Study of Cannabis and Social Policy, of which I am the Executive Director, Dominic Corbin. Thank you very much.
All right. Hello. All right, so we want to thank our panelists. Give them a good hand.